All right, guys. How's it going? Um, you guys just want me to run through these guys really quick? I'll just do a quick thing on all three of these guys, and then we'll kind of take the questions. So starting with Tyler Shuck, obviously, we're really, really excited about the opportunity to get Tyler. 32 starts. He faced a lot of adversity through his career. Battled through obviously multiple unfortunate injuries that kind of took him through a navigating process. But as we went through this process, just the more touching points we had with Tyler, the more impressed we got. He was a guy who went through this whole process. I think it's unique when you have a guy who went through the Senior Bowl, did the whole entire combine, went through the visits. Scott went out there and saw him at Louisville. We had a 30 visit with him. Every interaction just, really enforced, the player that he was. And so as you go through this QB process, obviously never easy decisions with that. Just felt like he was a really good quarterback. He was ready. He's prepared. Obviously, he's been through a lot in a good way, and so he's ready to compete in our quarterback room as it plays itself out. Going to Vernon, obviously just a phenomenal kid. Just the energy, the juice that he brings. Our chance to go out there for their pro day, we had a chance to kind of connect with a lot of those Texas guys, and obviously this is our second one that we got. So, he played behind a lot of premier defensive linemen when he was there, and so as a result, he kind of had to be patient. And sometimes you credit these guys that play the patient game, that kind of earn their opportunities on the field. And for him, obviously, it took a little while just as he waited his turn. But Bo and Terry had great relationships with him. Obviously, when you have people in-house who've invested with these guys, who spent a lot of time with them, huge advantage for us. His versatility on the defensive line, his ability to play in a number of positions, I think is going to be great for us. He's got length, he's got quickness, he can anchor, he's got good hands. He'll have a chance definitely to compete with our interior defensive line group. And then Jonas Sanker. This guy's a 3-year starter at Virginia, special teams. He's a captain. He just does everything. And this guy is, for us, we just felt really, really fortunate to be sitting there late in that draft. There's a lot of DBs that were going off the board, and for him to still be there and available to us, we're talking about him for a while. And so just really impressed by this guy. His play style, his instincts, his ability to, his tackling ability is really, really impressive. His ability to play on the back end. We're really fired up to have this guy. He'll obviously provide tremendous depth and add competition to the safety position there. So excited about all three. I thought it was a big time day for us. We were really excited about it. And any questions?
You mentioned Tyler's the adversity on the phone call to him is one of the first things you said here. Like, why is that something that kind of stands out and is important in that scouting process?
Yeah, I think all quarterbacks go through adversity, and there's challenges as you go through this, and those guys who can handle adversity tend to thrive in this league. And so, Tyler certainly dealt with some that are very unfortunate, especially when they're orthopedic injuries. They're not, some of the other ones, they're just bones. And, sometimes bones break and you get in unfortunate situations. And for him to continue to rebound from those and then play at such a high level this past year, again, as we went through this process, he kind of just built momentum as we kind of went through this whole thing.
Tyler's such a unique example, I think, even for the imperfect scouting process of a guy who, at the Senior Bowl, I don't think he was on a lot of radars as being drafted as high he was, and sort of people caught up late to that. But, was he somebody that you guys recognized right away that everybody was just kind of missing on?
What?
This class?
I think it's a good question of momentum. I think it's a momentum as you talk about this process. I think it's a good example of how long this process can be and how there's all these different touching base points and their potential building blocks for these guys. And for him, to go, compete in the Senior Bowl, to go to the combine, he just did everything and just went for it. Then he went and did his pro day and all these different steps, and he just continued to take advantage of them. I thought it's a really good example. Our scouting department was really on this guy. They did a lot of work, even going back to Texas Tech, back to Oregon. These guys knew his whole story. They were really on him for a number of years. And so, as coaches, we kind of join this process as it goes. And for those guys, they already kind of had this thing building. And for us to kind of come in and see all the work that had been done, and then to continue to interact with Tyler, again, momentum was definitely valuable to him.
A group effort, obviously, but would you say he was a guy that you personally really like, that he's kind of your guy? I mean, look, there's a bunch of quarterbacks to pick from in this draft.
Yeah, we certainly feel great about him. We feel like he's a he's ready to compete in this group. I think we have a really competitive, really high-level quarterback room. Obviously, starting with Derek. Derek's obviously dealing with his shoulder at the time, and so we'll kind of navigate that as it goes. But behind him, now you got Spencer, you got Jake, you got Ben, you got Tyler. We got this really competitive group. All these guys really, you saw them coming through this process, and you're a big fan of all of them. And so we feel like we're in a really good space there to allow this thing to compete and kind of go through this process.
Compete for the starting job if Derek was healthy?
Obviously, we felt great about Derek. We've been pretty consistent as we went through this process that we felt great about Derek, and so obviously we'll navigate the injury process of this.
Is there any benefit to Tyler's age and maturity and experience and exposure to a handful of systems, just in how he sees the game and processes it? And what did you see when you kind of put him through some exercise?
It's a really good question. I think Tyler's experience, certainly there's value to that. You can see it in the classroom aspect of this thing. His ability to process football at a very easy rate in the classroom. It's really good when you throw him up there and you're watching film and you're talking about plays and concepts. He's got great exposure. He's got great experiences that he can lean on. He's been through a lot of different football, and he's certainly a guy that is very comfortable in that space.
The quarterback position, do you view that as a positive? The older player as opposed to maybe a different position, the younger player might be preferable for the development?
You can certainly say that naturally that position you can play a little longer within age, just because of that the style in which that position is played compared to so many other positions. And so, his experience is valuable. I mean, these guys are, quarterbacks playing well into their 30s. Once they get their opportunity and they take advantage of it, those guys can play for a little while.
How's that big gap between Tyler and whoever the next quarterback was on the board?
A lot of good conversations, a bunch of guys right in there. And, as we went through this process, we felt like there was a lot of good quarterbacks. And ultimately, you have to make a decision. They're never easy. These guys never make it easy because there's a bunch of good quarterbacks coming in this league each and every year. And so you had to go through that process, conversations all the way up, through today, really leading up to it. And so ultimately, you got to make a decision. You just got to go for it.
You talked about like that. Who's going to be there at 40? Did you make any calls to go up at all, or were you got pretty confident in staying at 40?
Yeah, we certainly you always have conversations about moving and whatnot, but we felt pretty comfortable about staying at 40. We'd have a good opportunity there, depending on how everything played out above us.
Colin, it's been 3 straight years since they've selected a quarterback that played in the Senior Bowl. In fact, Derek Carr played here too. You played in the game, actually 4 out of 5 too, if you go back as well. What is it about that position to play in the game? And you've seen it both ways now for that quarterback, to play in the game and to be successful and help him out.
I think that's a really good observation. I think for all these quarterbacks, this process is a very thorough process. There's so many touching base points, and we want to try and get into it as many times as we can. And so I wasn't a part of the Senior Bowl. I wasn't quite here yet, but certainly our scouting department was there. And so, those guys get to get down on the field, spend time around this guy. All these quarterbacks, you can see a number of the guys in this class as well. Those are big time experiences. They put you through an uncomfortable environment. You see how these guys respond. I remember being in it as a quarterback. The Minnesota Vikings were our coaches, and Bill Musgrave was our offensive coordinator, and Craig Johnson was our quarterback coach. Kevin Stefanski was our assistant quarterback coach, and they throw you kind of in the fire, and it's a different system, and you're uncomfortable. But it's a really good exposure for you, and I think it's a great testing mark for these guys. And so certainly you've seen a lot of these guys who've been able to achieve great opportunities because of it.
What do you specifically like about the way Tyler plays the position?
Yeah, I think just great rhythm, anticipation. Certainly you feel like he can hit all marks of the field from a throwing perspective. And, I think he's got a great feel for this game. Obviously, you love the system that he's been exposed to at 3 different places. He's played some different styles, and so I think he's certainly comfortable and flexible within that. And so I think he's got a mind and a arm that in that combination he plays at a really high level.
Was there a time when it kind of all started to come together for him, or you saw it at each stop and between each injury?
Certainly, I focus mostly on the Louisville experience. Obviously, the other experiences. There's some you see those in passing more in the past years, but you spend a lot of time invested in this past year's work. That's the quarterback we're looking at right now, and so we felt pretty good.
And he's talking about bad plays, negative plays, how you use that as a growing
learning experience. Is that kind of generally how you approach every position, or specifically quarterback?
I think with quarterback positions, yeah, I think for any position, you're always trying to give these guys real honest feedback. And so these guys all got strengths. They all got great talent that obviously is putting them in this position. I think for all players, all coaches, every person in this situation, there's growth opportunities. And so I think it's always fun when you go through those meetings to kind of share some of those, hey, here's probably the growth steps that I would encourage you to be focused on, and kind of see how they respond and how they acknowledge those. And so these guys all have plenty of growth opportunities. They all have steps that they're going to continue to grow. This is a get in the door opportunity, and then what you make of it is obviously coming forward. So I think obviously he's just one of many of those guys.
You use some of the like kind of off-platform, kind of, for lack of a better term, trick shot throws. Do you want to kind of encourage some of that creativity, or do you kind of have to rein it in, or kind of pick your spots in that?
Just for him specifically? Yeah, obviously any quarterback, you have to be able to play off schedule. You have to be able to throw with different arm angles. That's an important aspect of this game. These rushers are really good in our league, and so you're going to have to move off the spot. It's not always going to be clean, and you got to still be able to deliver. And so within that, obviously guys always are going to have growth opportunities as far as the decision-making factor and when do you live to go to the next play, and when you're trying to still create. And so all these guys, that's a thing that you're going to continue to build each and every year as you go through it. Trial and error.
This is the highest the Saints have taken a quarterback since Archie Manning. And with that kind of investment, what does that mean for Derek's future, not just this season, but maybe beyond that?
Yeah, we just felt like it was a really good player. Obviously, we felt good about Tyler through this process, and I don't think there's anything wrong with ever investing in the quarterback room. We feel like there's a lot of depth in there now as we go through this process, and we'll just let it play out.
You've studied a ton of quarterbacks, obviously, in the last 5 or 10 years. Is there a guy that you think he's sort of like?
Oh, that's a great question. I don't want to throw too many comparisons as far as expectations, but I think obviously there's a lot of quarterbacks in our league that play with that rhythm, the timing, the anticipation that he plays with, and so there's a lot of different styles. There's a lot of guys in our league, the Jared Goffs, the Kirk Cousins, the guys that play with that rhythm and timing and feel for it. He can run, and so obviously he doesn't use it all the time like some of the other quarterbacks, but he has the ability to run. Obviously, showed it with the testing numbers that he provided through the combine, and so you feel like you're getting a really good quarterback in that.
Can you run a lot of the stuff that you ran with Jalen Hurts, the RPO type stuff with him, or is he a different guy?
I think it's probably a little bit different, but I think he does give you the tools to create some of that, and we'll just kind of see how it all plays out. We'll let that go, and we'll see when you need it.
Inherited Dak, Justin, and Jalen. What was it like just going through this process of trying to find your guy, and what are the things you were looking for that he kind of checked along the way?
I would say every year you're evaluating the quarterback position just the same way you would any other year. Obviously, it just so happens to be we end up having the opportunity to just aligned with our pick and the opportunity to draft one, and so there's a lot of different ways of playing quarterback. I think it's important that you have accuracy, you have timing, you have some of the anticipation, you have the you have the brain power to be able, process the game, and you got to have an ability to play in some sort of off schedule or different arm angles, and I think those are important aspects of this thing. And so, we feel good.
What did you kind of learn along the way? I mean, I know you mentioned the adversity part, but kind of how he handles adversity in the moment, or is there anything you learned about how he kind of to not get too down on himself, for instance? What did that process kind of uncover?
A lot of great examples of throughout his career of just having an adversity moment, whether it be an injury or hey, all these quarterbacks are going to throw interceptions. It's how you respond after that, and I think sometimes that's a fun task is when you're evaluating quarterbacks is watch them screw up, watch them throw an interception, see how they respond the next drive, see how they handle those different adversity moments. And so certainly Tyler was one that you felt like he had plenty of examples like that.
Is that something that he spoke a lot about you, Doug Nussmeier, as well as Scott Tolzien, all being former quarterbacks, and how that could help him grow. How, some of the things you just described feel like they're coming from a place of, I've been there, I've done that. How important is that in the process of developing a quarterback for you and your staff?
I certainly feel very fortunate that we have Scott and Doug here. The experience that our room has as far as just guys who've been in that group. Scott Lenahan's here as well as a senior assistant. He's a longtime head coach, offense coordinator in this league. He's been around a bunch of quarterbacks who've done it a lot of different ways. And so I feel like we have this ecosystem, that hopefully is a really healthy environment that allows, all these quarterbacks to continue to grow, not just Tyler. And I know Tyler's, today, but for Spencer to keep growing, for Jake to keep growing, for Ben to keep growing, for Derek to keep growing, for all these guys, hopefully we're creating a really healthy environment that allows these guys just to go play their best brand of football, and it'll all take care of itself.
Is that the kind of staff you intended to build specifically for this situation, or is that the kind of staff that you would have looked to build offensively regardless of where you would have ended up?
Certainly the quarterback position I think is a very valuable position. Obviously I have a lot of bias associated with that. Teaming up with guys that I've invested a lot of time over the last few years. Scott and Doug were both in Dallas when I was there at the same time. I've been with Scott for a number of years, a lot of different places as a player and a coach, and so I feel like we're creating a really healthy environment for these guys to grow.
I'm out of my depth here, but I was watching some of his plays, and I'm just curious, as someone that played quarterback, there's a lot of plays where he's going to his left and he's able to throw kind of sidearm against the momentum. Is that hard to do at that position? Just kind of being a right-handed quarterback going that direction and throwing across your body?
Yeah, certainly the off schedule, the body positions. Quarterbacks get put in. We'd all love to take a 5-step drop, nice and pretty, sit there, stand firm, throw the ball. It's all fun, and I think a lot of guys can check that box. It's the guys who, it's not clean, it's not perfect. How do you handle the adversity? He had some really battle-tested games where he's sitting in there at Notre Dame and he's taken a couple shots, he's gotten hit, and he's hanging in there, and so a lot of examples of that.
You guys had 4 picks, in the first 3 rounds. Saints have traded up a ton in the last decade or so. Was it important? Was that like a thing in that room? Let's try to make all 4 picks, or did it just work out that way?
Certainly, discussions happen. It played out, really well. Obviously, having 9 picks, for this draft currently, we feel like we can provide a lot of depth, a lot of youth into this roster, and so I feel like we got 4 great opportunities so far through 2 days. We got a number more tomorrow, and it'll be a lot of fun.
How would you describe just the draft class as a whole, not individual to position, but how would you describe what you've achieved so far with this draft class, and what do you hope to achieve going into tomorrow?
That's a good question. I think so far with these 4 guys, I think you represent high character guys, a lot of guys who've been captains, who've been leaders in their different spaces, guys who've played a lot of football at big time programs throughout this country, and so all that experience I think is going to be really, really valuable for us.
Jonas, specifically, with Brandon's star position, or do you want to describe that? Is he a player that kind of profiles into that type of role?
He definitely provides flexibility on the back end. He can play in a number of positions. You see him on the back end playing with range. You see him in the box being a really physical tackler. Obviously, he has the ability to kind of match up in some different situations, and so he certainly will provide us with some flexibility, which I think is key for our back end, for those guys to be able to line up in multiple spots and kind of allow us the creativity to do that.
Does he project as a core special teamer too?
Yes. I think I had the note. I think 8 special teams tackles his senior year. So I think that's a really cool stat. You're a big time player at Virginia, and you're going and playing special teams as a senior. 8 tackles says a lot about him.
This might be a silly question, but does Tyler remind you of you at all? The way you like to play the game?
It's a great question. It's been a little while, so I don't know. I think certainly there's other quarterbacks that you've been around. I think as you go through the process, I think he just did an excellent job taking advantage of each and every opportunity, and I think he's in a good position.
I don't think we've asked you this yet. Does his age, was that a factor at all in your decision making? He's going to be 26 by the time the season comes around.
It's certainly a discussion point. I think we all should have that discussion point just to confirm it. But we saw it as a positive. He's been through a lot of football. He's been exposed to a lot of different settings. Going from Oregon, Texas Tech to Louisville, and so and the quarterback position again. These guys aren't reaching their peak for a while, and so he's going to continue to rise and grow.
When you're looking at a high draft pick like that and considering the age, do you kind of look at it as you're only looking at the next 4 to 5 years of the initial contract, or do you try to look beyond 8-10 years in the future? Is it like a long-term outlook, or this is what this player can provide
Yeah,
It's on his first
I think you're
contract.
looking at where's the growth opportunities, based off the age, where's the growth opportunities, and maybe a little bit projecting out beyond that first, that first contract, so to speak. But these quarterbacks will play plenty of years, and it's not like you're talking, 30 years old. I mean, he's going to turn 26. I mean, we're fine. He's going to play out his full rookie deal, and maybe he's 30 or whatever. We can all do the math. It's fine.
So much often made of a player's age, so I always wonder if teams look at it as, okay, well, we're just gonna look at the first 4 years and he's in his 20s, so that doesn't matter to us. Or if you're maybe saying I want a player around for 10 years, and then maybe it does matter. But I assume every team looks at that.
Yeah, you can do it differently. Obviously, again, for that position, I think it's great. Bo obviously was a great example last year. Bo Nix, he played a bunch of football in college, played a little extra, maybe than the traditional schedule, and he had a great year.
Seeing some of the physical things that work for him, that work for Tyler on film and everything, it's kind of easier to pick out the more physical things. What are some of the things maybe about him that stand out to you that maybe, unless you've been there, done that, you wouldn't notice?
On film? Okay. Yeah. I thought his exposure in the scheme that he played his last year, I thought was a great example of, he had a lot of tools at the line of scrimmage. He had the ability to get in and out of plays. Some of those intangible things I think are very valuable. So he has experience doing that, checking and making some decisions there at the line of scrimmage. And so, I think that's hugely valuable. Obviously, he's played in. He's played in the action game. He's played in the quick game. I thought they had a cool blend. They play in the RPO and ball out game, but then they take their shots, and he can attack all levels of the game, and he's done all those. And so I think he's done a lot of things, which is a great advantage to him.
Do you expect that in your system some of those things are there, especially the ability to check in and out of plays and things like that? Like, is that something you plan to trust your quarterback with?
It's always something that I felt is a very valuable piece. Pretty much everywhere I've been as a player or a coach, it's always been important to embrace the quarterback has the tools, and they have the best view at the line of scrimmage. And so giving them the tools to make certain decisions, make little adjustments here and there, gives you the chalk glass, so to speak, and allows you to put yourself in the best position to be successful.
His arm talent is almost at the highest. How would you describe how good his arm talent is? That's his strong suit, right?
Yeah, he's got a great arm. Again, he can attack every aspect of the field, and he'll be fine.
Colin, you think with the quarterbacks, with the age now, with the NIL and college football, you think they're going to stay in college a lot more now, and quarterbacks, coming out going to be a little bit older?
I think it's fair to look at it that way. I think the positives to NIL is it's maybe providing these guys some financial security that also allows them to develop in college a little bit longer, and so they get more experience there. Again, for some guys, once they get to the NFL, if they're not immediate starters, they're playing in 2 or 3 preseason games, and that's about it. And you're trying to find other development opportunities. Well, now you get a chance to play a little bit more in college, play a bunch of high, big-time games. There's a lot of positives that can potentially come out of this.
Vernon is he primarily D tackle? Can he play some on the edge as well?
Yeah, D tackle probably start inside, but have the flexibility. Again, he can work his way out as you go. And obviously Bo having great experience with him. He's got the ability to line up in a number of spots, which was a big positive for us.
When you have versatility like that, or even using Kelvin as an example, do you guys start out at one position and then as the summer goes along, you introduce another position, or how does that kind of work?
Yeah, traditionally most players, you're going to create kind of a starting point and let them grow from there. And so, you got to build confidence in these players as they go. You don't want to overwhelm them with too much information and too many different things they got to figure out. You want to get them going, build the momentum, and then give them the versatility as they go.
As a team who entered this week in need of a quarterback, are you surprised at how the first 3 rounds have played out specifically at that position?
Yeah, the quarterback position is always a unique one as far as, every draft. It seems like there's always some surprises here and there in many different ways. And so, there's always surprises. There's always, there's some really good quarterbacks in this draft, certainly it's there's always going to be surprises.
One of those is Shadur Sanders. I don't want to answer this, but why not him specifically, or was it just getting on to Tyler?
Yeah. He was right in those conversations. Again, as we talk about this, these are really tough decisions, and really good player. What he accomplished at Colorado, and you watch the film, it's really, really good. Think really highly of him. Ultimately, as you go through it, you gotta make a decision, and we felt like Tyler was the one for us.
Just to clarify, for Derek, there's no you didn't receive the clarity you guys were looking for from Wednesday.
No.
Did Derek's situation put more of an emphasis on we'd probably like to add a quarterback in this draft class because of that uncertainty, or?
We had kind of discussed this for a long time for the whole offseason, just as far as anytime if there's an opportunity to add value to that room, there's always you always want to take advantage of that, and so we discussed it for a while.
All right. Good.
All right, thanks guys. I don't know. You guys want me or you want Mickey? You choose. Yeah, they took all the